you're looking at political process?
I see it as a, so if for any reason somebody is deprived of that right, then the leadership will not be responsible to such a person or group of persons. It is very important that once the electionary process is put in place, adults, based on the constitutional provision of a country, prescribed laws and regulations must, as a matter of obligation, exercise their right of franchise. So if you disenfranchise one from exercising that right, then naturally you have deprived him of his choice of leadership. But that is typically the importance attached to the exercise of voting right. But unfortunately, some countries, even when this voting right falls within the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, some countries consider it not as compelling or compulsory right to exercise, whereas some also have it as a compulsory right for every citizen of adult age to exercise that right.
All right, thank you. Now let's look at, you made mention of some countries that really do not see it as a compulsory thing, to engage in for citizens. Now, when we look at the countries like Australia and Rwanda, we will say that they enforce it's a necessity as a citizen you have to vote. Now, for a country like Nigeria, that's where it comes in, where it's not really compulsory. People don't see it as a necessity to do it. So would you say that that act or that leniency in that area has actually added to why we have poor representation of leadership?
Yes, of course. The apathy shown in exercising the right of voting for a choosing candidate, the rightful candidate, had made it difficult for the nation called Nigeria to elect for herself good leaders. When you look at the Rwanda case, you see that every adult citizen is mandatorily required to exercise that franchise, and it helps a great deal the voter turnout, though politically it might not give the best candidate, but once you look at their constitution, their laws that makes it mandatory, it gives everybody the conscience, because the understanding that this is your duty.
Okay.
You are bound by it. I call it civic duty. Once you exercise your right of voting, you are exercising your civic duty. It helps. It prevents rigging during the election. It prevents thuggery, because when you see a population that over 90% adults are out there to vote, it breaches the gap of those who wants to perpetrate election malpractices.
Okay.
Because for you to be a voter, you must be registered. The law or the procedure for voting does not start with the election day. As an adult, the electoral body must have your details, your biodata, if you are a female or you are a male, an adult, your location, and then a voter's card will be issued. So that gives you the right to go to the poll during the election to cast your vote. And when you don't do it, it creates room for election malpractice. Parties who have upper hands, or those parties that government can take advantage of that lapses, this number of voters are in the voters register, they do not come out physically to vote. They will use it and write results in their favor, or prepare a result that will favor them in the names of those that vote.
I would still like to bring your attention to I don't know. I feel since we are still talking about contemporary issues, let's still bring the election that happened. Of course, saw the number of people came to vote. Understand? And then I don't want to say that, maybe there was some, mispractice in the rules, but then we are point out you talked about preventing and another. But say people, present their vote in this scenario or in whenever an election. But yes, there's still of some countries that still and who have the financial capability than others. What do you have to say about that?
When you talk about election, it is vividly captured in our 1999 Constitution, Chapter 4 of the 1999 Constitution. And you made reference to the 2023 presidential or general election. Let me not limit it to the presidential election. That election had a very poor outing.
In terms of the masses,
the population,
or
the voters, there was a high level of voters apathy. People were not interested.
No, I would like
some states.
Okay.
When you talk about the presidential election, some states, the people did not come out en masse. I know very well. When you also talk about rigging, you see that our electoral act prohibits election malpractices. That is on the surface of the law books, the electoral act. In practice, you see that it is completely the opposite side of it, and it's unfortunate because the attitude of politicians to elections, basically the attitudes you see are basically a do or die affairs, or winner wins all approach, which ought not to be. In civilized world where democracy is revered and practiced, the candidates don't go to the poll with that mentality. Winner takes it all, or a do or die affair. They see it as sportsmanship, in the spirit of sportsmanship. Once the result is not in your favor, you concede to the result and you congratulate. That is what sportsmanship is all about. When you lose a game, obviously you have to stretch your hands of congratulation to the winning team. Unfortunately, Nigeria is still crawling. I did an article, in fact it was an interview about our democracy when it was celebrated 25 years of democracy or so. I think last year or so. I had an interview and the question was, how is the assessment like? I said, well, it will take us another 25 years to get matured. Obviously, nobody can doubt it, because the crop of politicians we have today, they will vote, they will invite thugs, ballot snatching, top breathing, voters cards and all of that, just for them to show their level of desperation of winning, all in a bid to grab power. If we pull out, deviate or move out from that culture, that mentality of winner wins all, it must be me and others should go their ways. We will see that the right of voting is for one man and one vote. Somebody will not come and vote multiple times because you want one candidate to win at the end of the day. The other party or group of politicians that think that they own the country will not take that kind of. That's why I said, if our laws, if the Constitution clearly provides that every adult must vote, it will minimize election malpractice. It will definitely minimize. If I appear on the election day at the poll station, nobody will use my name to add up for his votes because of my absence.
So what are those common lapses that is giving entry to all this, someone being able to, you know, impersonate another person? You know?
Voter apathy.
Okay. Can you
people
explain
not willing,
that?
and I will not blame the citizens. When you make politics uninteresting, when you pose a picture of a do or die approach, maybe killing before election. Nigeria, for example, the electoral practices, politicking, are not ideological based. They only think after how to get to the office. You don't project, parties don't place before the electorate their ideologies.
Okay.
This is what my party believes. This is what we intend to deliver. And that is the more reason why what we are witnessing today in Nigeria is almost a near one party state. And it's not helpful for democracy. No good opposition. Unlike in the United Kingdom, where you have at least two basic parties. Same thing in the United States of America. If your party is in position today and you're running your tenure for the next 4 years, the party that lost becomes a viable opposition. Your policies are being challenged and tested in the public. To the best interest of the citizenry, it's not about the party you belong, the family lineage of your political career you are coming from. It is about the happiness, the general good and happiness of the generality of the people. And that is what is missing. So I will be of the opinion that the Nigerian Constitution should be amended to include a mandatory voting for adults.
Okay, I will still get back to that because looking at, still you made mention of the 1999 Constitution of Nigeria. We understand that prior to that year, there was no enforcement of civil rights in terms of voting as a civil right for every Nigerians. And then we understand that from that 1999, where it was captured in the chapter 4, where you mentioned particularly section 77 of is it part 2, where it was stated that citizens from 18 years can vote in National Assembly election. And then when you are looking at the section 137, it provides the eligibility criteria for contesting the presidency, including citizenship, age, and educational elections. That's where it was at least anything about the right to vote and be voted for was mentioned. And now I would love you to look at some of the factors that had made this the right to vote and be voted for not to be enforced in the Nigerian Constitution before the 1999 Constitution.
The Nigerian government or nation is a signatory to the United Nations Assembly.
General Assembly, okay.
Sometime in 1946, 48, there was a Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which afterwards Nigeria became a signatory to it. and ratified the provisions as contained in that Universal Declaration, which also includes the right to vote.
Okay.
Trickled down in our 1999 Constitution as reflected. It merely stated it in those sections of the law you rightly quoted in our 1999 Constitution as amended, but it did not state it as being mandatory. It is simply discretionary. And that is why during election you see people just sit back at home, young men who ought to go to the pool to vote, start playing football on the streets, and some considers it as their holidays.
Okay.
It is not helping. I am advocating that it is high time we take our electioneering process seriously by enshrining in our constitution.
Well, I think as of, sorry, I'm not cutting words out of you from your mouth. As of 2002, if I'm not wrong, I think there was a ratification that actually led to every Nigerians must, give their votes as a citizen. I think 2002 or thereabout.
Not in the 1999 Constitution.
Yeah, of course, not in 99 Constitution.
So since it is a constitutional provision, it must be amended to reflect in the 1999 Constitution.
Okay, that is the Constitution we are using now.
Yes,
okay.
It's the supreme law of the country. Once it is captured, nobody will look at it as a mere statute. It becomes a ground norm. It becomes binding on every adult citizen of Nigeria. That is how the law operates. Once it's not reflected in our constitution, then it is not mandatory as such. It is not. And once you bring it and it is inconsistent with the 1999 constitution, to the extent of its consistency, it is null and void. So that is the position of it. Now what we are saying, what I am saying, and I believe, it should be the right thing.
Okay.
If we have this culture of electing our leaders without compulsion, without inducement, without taking it by force, why don't we have it in our constitution? It embarrasses me that up to date the National Assembly, both the Senate and the House of Representatives, are engaged in constitutional amendment. Every now and then, every year we hear about government talking about, especially the legislative arm of government, how to amend the constitution. Yes, it's not a perfect document, but it should be a very rigid document that you don't just wake up and amend that way. They want to create states, they will amend the constitution. They want to effect a change in the structure of electoral, they amend the
But
constitution.
isn't that what you're also saying, that there should be an amendment, like amendment to the 1999
yes,
Constitution?
it is because there is so much of deficiency.
Okay.
There is so much. We are talking about the voters' right, and this has given room for people to find their way in the corridors of power that they have no business. Some don't have the least leadership quality, but because they know how to maneuver and manipulate the process, the system, they are declared governors, they are made senators, they are made House of Reps, just name them, even up to the presidency. We must begin now to check who is qualified, and the only means of doing that is through our voting rights. Those that are in the National Assembly today, if we had our laws properly couched out, we will not go there and start chasing frivolities.
Okay.
We will begin to concentrate on the welfare and well-being of the citizens. That is the most important thing for governance. That is what democracy serves the people. Once you lose touch of that, the government of that day becomes irresponsible and irresponsive. So our election process must be the bedrock for democratic leadership. In as much as we are not getting it right, we are also electing for ourselves those that will go up there and engage in frivolities.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. You know, there was a time I was in class and my lecturer once said something that Nigeria is practicing a cosmetic kind of democratic system. Of course, with what you're saying, although we are not actually doing, maybe we are trying our best, the system is trying their best to, practice a democratic system, but they're still lacking some things. Now, when you're looking at still on this democratic kind of system, the representation, where we elect who we want to represent us, sometimes there's always a deficiency in that, because you might not necessarily know this person well. Whatever the person, like you said, the person has to the person has to present his ideologies for it to be criticized and then chosen by the people. But I still feel that like there will still be some deficiency in such areas.
We have a culture.
Okay.
We are Africans, and leadership or civilization in quotes, is traceable to Africa. So leadership has never been a strange thing for us. It's just how we evolve with it that is the problem. Now, if you're talking about how to know the right candidates, how can somebody who had never had a good record even within his family, remote family circle, somebody who is an outcast, somebody who the biological father of that person has looked at him and said, I disown you. Suddenly he grew up in his chief's house, or an elder who is also in the line of Togri and all that. The man groomed this person to become a local government chairman. He came through the back door, he became the chief of staff, he became the governor, he became a minister even before becoming the governor, and all that. And you see him talk very loud. He has his penchant for making inflammatory statements. Qualities of leadership. It's not something you buy, you go to the shop to pick from the shop. You don't buy them. It is embedded in the individuals. And once your community says, oh, this is a good person, your organization, your school, you start from somewhere. You must have this history of leadership.
Okay.
And once you don't have that background, you can't make a good leader. In the United States, and I keep saying it in Nigeria, it is practicable. We can have it right. We can have it right because we live in a global world where what is happening in Japan today, we are privy to know about it. So the gap that used to exist in 200, 100 years ago had been bridged for us to learn and move fast.
Okay.
So we can't say, oh, Nigeria democracy, for some will say it's a nascent democracy. Some say no, we have grown. We are growing and we'll get there, we'll mature someday. We can do it far better. So leadership had been a problem, and that problem can be solved to a large extent if we have our voting right policies enshrined in our constitution as being mandatory.
Okay. All right, thank you so much, sir. From your definition and explanation so far, I've come to understand that you're saying the right to vote and to be voted for should be a fundamental right and as well a legal right. So we'll still come back to that because I have questions to ask you on that. All right, beloved viewer, if you're still watching, we are talking on the right to vote and to be voted for as a civil obligation. And I believe that you are enjoying all the interaction with His Grace Archbishop Justice justice and hear what. Don't go anywhere, stay tuned, because we will be right back with more interaction on this topic. Stay tuned.
BBC's music. King of kings and Lord of lords, holiness, Olumbabu, the supreme judge of the universe, now seated upon the throne, the holy throne of his father, great leader Olumbabu. All spirits, seen and unseen, must worship the living Christ, else it will be, it's gonna be a bumpy ride. It will be a bumpy ride. The fury of his judgment is rocking the universe. All over the human race, prejudice prevails. All over the human race, injustice prevails. Genocide and strife, armament and war, preemptive execution is the way of the world. It will be a bumpy ride. It will be a bumpy ride. The giver of peace is back on earth, His Holiness King Olumbabu. In brotherhood we stand, the only source of peace in the world. There is no real peace. It will be a bumpy ride. The human race should listen to the living Christ. No one can escape thy wrath, oh God. We gotta coexist in love, else it will be a bumpy ride. It's gonna be a bumpy ride. It will be a bumpy ride. Fire and flood, infectious diseases are in action. Natural disasters are symptoms of His judgment. Inhabitants of this world recognize His omnipotence. It's gonna be a bumpy ride. It will be a bumpy ride. Political insanity is the word of the world. Brotherhood and peace is what we need, because in the world there is no real peace. In the world there is no real peace. It will be a bumpy ride.
Many are called, few are chosen.
Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but my words shall not pass away. Then shall two be in the field, the one shall be taken and the other left. Two women shall be grinding at the mill, the one shall be taken and the other left. Watch therefore, for ye know not what hour the Lord cometh. But know this, that if the good man of the house had known in what wash the thief would come, he would have washed, and would not have suffered his house to be broken up. Therefore, be ye also ready, for in such an hour as ye think not the Son of Man cometh. In the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
Few are chosen. Many records, but few are chosen. Many records, but few are chosen. Many records, many records, many records, but few are chosen. Many records, but few are chosen. Many records, but few are chosen.
This new kingdom, we are saved by grace. This new kingdom, we are saved by mercy. Let us be humble. Let us be patient. Let us be silent before the King. I say, let us be humble. Let us be patient. Let us be silent before the King.
Many records, but few are chosen. Many records, but few are chosen. Many records, many records, many records, but few are chosen.
Jesus said to them, wash ye and pray, that ye enter not into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Wash ye and pray, ye sons of God. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Wash ye and pray, ye sons of God.
Many records, but few are chosen. Many records, but few are chosen. Many records, but few are chosen.
Peter said unto his master, I will follow you unto the end of time. Whatever may be, I will follow you. I will follow you unto the end. I say, whatever may be, I will follow thee. I will follow you unto the end.
Many records, but few are chosen. Many records, but few are chosen.
Kings and queens, records.
Many records, many records, but few are chosen.
Choose ye this day who ye shall serve. You cannot serve two masters. For me and my family, we shall serve the Lord. We shall serve His holiness Olumba. For me and my family, I say, we shall serve the Lord today. We shall serve His holiness Olumba.
Many records, but few are chosen. Many records, but few are chosen. Many records, many records, many records, but few are chosen. Many records, many records, but few are chosen.
Voting is the expression of our commitment to ourselves, our society, our country, and of course, the world we live in. Yes, we are still talking about the right to vote and be voted for as civil obligation. And this is a live broadcast. You can watch us on YouTube and of course on Facebook. It is the program Regnum Continuous Legal Education that we are, of course, doing right now. So we have been talking about the topic, the right to vote and be voted for as civil obligation. And right here in the studio, which he has been with me from the beginning of this episode till this time, is Grace, Archbishop Justice Anyakwor. He has already been able to justify his claims on the fact that this should be a fundamental right and as well a legal right for all citizens. Don't say it is not my thing, it is their thing. No, it involves you, it involves your children today, it involves your generations to come. So it is a right that you as a person must exercise. Welcome back, sir. Good to have you back. All right, now let's go quickly to looking at some of the instances in states and countries that it's recognized in different aspects. I mean, the right to vote and be voted for is recognized in different angles.
From the United Kingdom,
Okay.
that is, the voting rights was in the early stage when it was introduced was limited to those who owns landed property. History has it that they colonized the United States of America, and this same practice was introduced. Yes,
Okay.
it was introduced in the United States of America way back in 1776.
Okay.
The male adult land owners, that is the qualification.
Is it the
Yes.
second you're talking about?
Male land adult owners, they are the ones that had the right to vote for their leaders. As part of the elements for democracy to strive, they keep amending, because that right was enshrined in their constitution,
Okay.
the United States of America Constitution. They keep amending from the 7th, 8th, 14th up to 21st Amendment. Had it in different phases. Even the black Americans were disenfranchised from voting in America. But much later, the amendment of the Constitution gave room and gave right to the black Americans to participate in the voting. 18 something, the black Americans started voting. They had the right to exercise. The same thing was for the women. The women at some point were later allowed to exercise the right of voting. But the bottom point is that you must be an adult from the age of 18 and above. That is the basic criteria for the exercise of the voting right. With all this, you can see that the laws plays a major role. It is what the law says concerning the right to vote that the citizens implements or are abided with. If the law says you are an adult, no doubt, but you don't own a landed property as at in 1776, then you cannot vote, because there is a condition for that. It evolves with time, which gave for the black Americans to vote and all of that. In Nigeria, same thing. The 1999 Constitution also provides for those who have the right to vote. It is not everybody. For the children below 18 years, you cannot vote and be voted for. So both the men and women in Nigeria, of course, exercise the same right to vote. Now, these are areas that would give room for individuals to exercise their choices of leadership. And once that right is deprived of, you now see that the people are no longer responsible for the choice of their leaders. The benefit that is derivable from these laws, and they are laws that must reflect the constitution of the country, shows that, oh, if I can vote for somebody of my choice, then I also have the right to contest and be voted for. That's the universal suffrage that we're talking about. It gives you every right, but once you have certain issues, let me put it that way, certain conditions at which you cannot exercise that right of voting and be voted for, then the law also provides for such conditions. Like, for example, if one is convicted of a criminal offense, you don't have the right to vote anymore, and you cannot be voted for. That's another aspect of it that will deprive you of the benefit of voting. In some countries, they have such conditions. And once you are convicted or you are in jail terms, same thing in Nigeria, you cannot be voted for or have the right to
If you have been seen as an ex-convict.
That is it.
Okay, okay. All right, thank you so much. So other than being seen as an ex-convict, so what are other limitations to being voted for?
I did mention the issue of a minor. Then the mental state when it's insane.
Okay.
An insane person, even if you are an adult, you are not an ex-convict, you are above 18 years, and the same person not exercise that right of voting or be voted for, because you don't have the mental capacity to decide for yourself. You don't have the mental capacity to decide, to make a choice of leadership. That is basically the areas which one not exercise right to vote.
Okay, now thank you, sir. Now let me your attention to, there is this event that actually happened between ENEC and one is the Bala Rabbe Musa in 2003, sorry, which led to the Supreme Court issuing out that the right to vote and be voted for is a fundamental aspect of democracy that cannot be unduly restricted by political party regulations. So can you talk about that?
Now, that Supreme Court judgment basically touches on the principle of this fundamental human right to vote and be voted for.
Was it that the man's rights was being inflicted or infringed or something?
He approached the court that his right has been infringed upon. He has a right to vote and be voted. I think basically that is a contention in that matter. And the Supreme Court says no. Your constitution as a party, a political party, cannot override the provision of the 1999 Constitution. You cannot deprive somebody who is not insane, who is not an ex-convict, who is not a minor, from benefiting from the right to vote and be voted for. That is the position of the law, and it's a Supreme Court judgment which is binding on the lower courts, and you cannot alter it. That is the law, the case law.
Okay. All right, thank you so much. So now we are told that there are laid down rules for religious organizations registered with the Corporate Affairs Commission. So now let's look at the rules. How do they operate?
A very interesting question. It's almost the same thing like the fundamental human rights that provides for voting rights. Once you belong to a religious organization that is registered in Nigeria elsewhere in any part of the world, because the practice here is almost similar anywhere where non-profit organization approaches the government to be recognized as a legal entity. The members will come together and provide for themselves a written document called Constitution, a regulatory document for the conduct of the activities, mode of worship, mode of dressing, and just name them. That constitution or piece of document will be used as an identity for such a religious organization, and the government, through a commission like the Corporate Affairs Commission, will consider if they are qualified to be registered. Once that is granted, that they have what it takes to be recognized as a not-for-profit organization, religious organization, the next step the Corporate Affairs Commission will require as a matter of law is, do they have trusteeship? Who are those that will manage the affairs of such a not-for-profit organization? In United States of America, you have the board of directors and also the board of all, as well as the board of trustees. But in Nigeria, it's limited to the board of trustees as provided by the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020. Once you present within or amongst yourself members as members of the board of trustees, they are now seen as legal entities.
Okay.
We now describe them as the registered trustees of so religious body.
Okay, so must these or must all the organizations vote members of the board of trustees amongst themselves?
Yes. One, you must be a member of such an organization, a religious organization, and as a member, it depends on the constitution of that organization and the mode or ways and means at which they present their trustees. Is either by election or by appointment. Whichever way their constitution prescribes. What the Corporate Affairs Commission does is to monitor and regulate the activities of this organization. So amongst them, the members who feels that they are eligible to contest, if it's for election, to become members of the board of trustees, we indicate their interest, and the generality of the members will come together to elect for themselves those candidates. If it's by way of appointment, they have their procedure. They have their procedure, like the Catholic Church. The Pope presides over the affairs of the church as a spiritual leader. So they go through processes of electing the Pope. Same thing for the Muslims. While in the United Kingdom we had the opportunity of interacting with a particular sect of the Islamic religion in London, and they said they have their leader who they describe as His Holiness, and we were curious because we wanted to know how did he ascend that position,
Okay.
as a spiritual leader for them. They gave us the conditions, and they have an electoral body that comes from different parts of the country, the world, the continent, and they gather in a place to fast and pray. In course of that spiritual exercise, the spiritual leader will be revealed to them, and they put it to vote. And that is how they appoint for themselves spiritual leaders. And immediately that process is undertaken, they present the person to the government, and government has no choice but to recognize that person as their leader. But for the board of trustees, whose organization adopts the election process, members will now vote. either for the chairman, the secretary, the treasurer, and these are the laws, the statutory laws that regulates the mode of electing for themselves members that will hold for trust. A member of the board of trustee is not that you are the chief executive officer of the religious organization. The meaning of trusteeship is you are holding and managing the affairs of the religious organization in trust for the members.
Okay.
It is different from a religious organization that has a spiritual composition.
Okay. All right, thank you so much. All right, now let's make a little comparative analysis of some jurisdiction. Now, we understand that in the United States, when you're talking about the right to vote and be voted for them, it is a right with no legal obligation. That's for the United States. Now, when we have several case studies as attached to that. When you're looking at the United Kingdom, it is voluntary voting, but institutional. Now, moving ahead, we look at Australia. We understand that it is a mandatory voting with legal consequences. If you don't do it, these are the consequences you have to face. And we have other places like China, which of course it is elections without genuine political choice. And then we move to countries like North Korea, Japan, South Africa, Rwanda, and the rest. And of course, I know you're acquainted with all the electoral rights that has to do with these countries. Now, looking at what lessons does this really pose for Nigeria? What lessons should Nigerians learn from all these political, the right to vote and be voted for as exemplified in these various countries and states?
They have their different dimensions. The China you mentioned, it has just one leader they look up to vote for. It's more or less like the monarchical structure. For the United Kingdom, yes, it's not mandatory, but their institutions are very
I think
strong.
the United Kingdom is that of monarchical, while that of China is kind of communist.
You don't vote. It's monarchical. Yes, the communist for China.
Yeah.
But if you talk about voting, the citizenry does not have the right to vote or elect for themselves who is the king or who is the queen.
Okay.
That aspect of leadership is quite distinct from the prime minister's position. The prime minister's position in the United Kingdom, you have to vie for it through a political party platform. They are saying that it is not mandatory, but institutionally you have to be part of it. Same thing like the United States of America. Now, I am saying that if we adopt that of the Rwanda approach or the Australian approach, where it is made mandatory, if you don't vote, you attract some legal consequences. It will help ward off, prevent the number of irregularities, the high rate of election malpractices we have witnessed in the past. We have tried it. There is no election. I came to discover that in Nigeria, there is no election that had been conducted in this country that is without, or there are without election malpractice, rigging,
but they have been.
We should look for a way, we should look for other means of eliminating these electoral malpractices, these irregularities that has bedeviled our nation. We can change the rules if everybody is made to vote compulsorily, and if you don't vote as an adult, you attract legal consequences. We will see that we will close certain gaps. The politicians take advantage of voter apathy. In fact, when the voters turn out, they adopt this thuggery, violent approach to scare voters. You just see a situation where in 2023, a woman was attacked in Lagos while in the queue to vote for her candidate. she got injured.
Yeah.
She was taken to
I've
the
seen
hospital.
such things.
She came back. He said, "This is my right. I must."
Mm.
What those that perpetrated that evil act intended to achieve was to scare the voters so that they can grab the election materials, snatch the ballot box, and stuff it with their the voters voters papers for their own, in favor of their own candidate.
Okay.
So if we change our laws to have it like that of the Rwanda, Nigerians are resilient people. They are very determined. They can come out and say, yes, this is our candidate and want it this way. After voting, they will stay back and defend their vote. It will change the narrative, I can assure you. And once we begin to get it right from the ballot boxes and we vote our leaders will be accountable to the electorate.
Yeah.
Because most times when the president is seated, he's not accountable to anybody. He will tell you that after all, I bought salt, I shared rice, and even gave money for you to vote me. It is my turn to rule over you. So that is what to see.
But you know, some of the reasons why the citizens would, go ahead to collect this, even if it's 1 cup of rice, they'll say, after when they get it there, we won't achieve anything.
And they are getting it wrong. They are getting. You know why it is like that?
Why?
The politicians impoverish the electorate. They starve the people of funds.
Okay.
They don't encourage social welfare for the citizens, especially in Nigeria. They take delight seeing people suffering, the hardship. We are going through this hardship, fuel increase, no money to buy food, no money to pay utilities, and you expect this impoverished electorates to go to the poll in 2027 to vote for their choice? No. Definitely once the presidential candidates start doling out money, they'll just grab it and say, this is what I can benefit for the immediate.
You know why I brought this up? Because sometimes, in our schools, like in our normal schools, whether secondary or tertiary, you see, in a bid to make students learn about how to exercise their franchise, you tend to see them and following the same footsteps that our leaders sometimes follow by buying some things and all of that. I can remember that recently we were in a school where they were trying to teach the children or the student how to exercise their vote starting from secondary school, and you see some student had to go about trying to buy things to pacify others to vote for them, to say, I can do well, I can do it. I feel we have I would like Brother Briggs is already here. Let him just add a word to the discussion before we call it a wrap for this episode. Hello, Brother Briggs, are you there? Okay, I feel we'll have to still continue our discussion. Now let's bring in religion to this. We understand that, let's just put it this way. Do God encourage, election? Does God approve election, or does he sanction it for religious setting?
To my opinion, I believe that God does, because it is commonly said and believed that it's a common philosophy that the voice of the people is the voice of God. So if the voice of the people are rightly expressed in their votes, then they get the good leaders or the good leadership that they desire. And once you toughen that voice of the people, God is out of it. So God, to a large extent, is involved when the people collectively or in the majority says, we have this as our candidate. Yeah. We are voting, we are making our choice. this is our leader. So to a large extent, God is usually involved when it comes to the voice of the people being the voice of God.
As long as he's following the right means and
That's
it's for
it.
the right cause. All right, thank you so much, sir. Okay, back to Brother Briggs. I feel he can hear me right now. Greetings to you, sir. How are you doing? Can you hear me?
Can you hear me on YouTube? Or can you hear me right now? Because I'm switching between YouTube and Zoom.
Oh, I can hear you. I can
Right
hear
now I'm
you.
on Zoom.
All right, so we are already wrapping up with the section. So I would have loved for you to add just a word to the discussion on the right to vote and be voted for as a civil obligation. Just a few words because we are already wrapping up on the section.
Okay, first of all, it was out of my body. I had an official payment, which I didn't plan to. But thank the Father here. I'm still able to join virtually. Just as my learned senior in studio there with you has said, this right to vote and be voted is a very, very fundamental right when it comes to democratic and political systems around the world. We're not getting it right. I think we can borrow a little or two from other countries that are doing better than us in terms of the transparency of their voting process, in terms of the quality of governance they give out to the citizens. I think those are the major factors that really restrict the interest of the Nigerian masses, Nigerian class to come out and march.
Your network, I don't know if you can hear me. Your network is really, really cranky at this moment. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, sir? Your network is really, really challenging at this point. So I would like to thank you for at least coming through for us. Maybe on the next episode, we will still have quality time with you. At this moment, I would like to thank His Grace Archbishop Justice Ayakwa for making this section worth the while. Thank you so much, sir. And to our audience who have joined us in the conversation starting from when we started to this point where we are wrapping up, I want to say thank you so much for staying glued. Remember, you are the reason why we are here. So always make sure that in every episode, every Friday, same time, 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m., you're always there to learn one or two from the program Regnum Continuous Legal Education, so that you can represent yourself well as an individual in society. All right, I am Peace Smith reaching out to you on Star Cross Television. Until we meet again next episode, bye for now.